Hi everyone, today we're going to be going through GCSE Edexcel Higher Paper 2 Predicted Paper for 2024. So please still revise every topic since there's no guarantee what will come up on the day. And if you do want more practice, I have linked above and in the description other predicted paper that has some topics that can come up in paper 2. So let's get started with question 1. Work out the volume of the triangular prism. Now, how do you find out the volume? It is going to be the volume of the shape that you have here. In this case, we have a triangle. So we know that the area of a triangle can be found using this formula, which is half times base times height. And we times this by length. So that will be times by length. And this is so we can find volume. If we do this, we do 5 times 12, and this is 60. Then we do 60 divided by 2. This is 30. This is the area of this triangle over here. Now we times it with length, which is 10. So we do 30 times 10, and this is 300. And we know the answer is 300 centimeter cubed. Question 2, work out the value of 7.5 times 10 to the power of 4 times 2.5 times 10 to the power of 3. With standard form, when we do our calculations, we time the first numbers together, and then we do the index, the 10 to the power of whatever number, by itself. So if we start with 7.5 times 2.5, we get 18.75. And then if we do 10 to the power of 4 times by 10 to the power of 3. This is using index law. So we know index law is that if two numbers are timed together where they have the same common term, which is the n, in this case it's the 10, it will just be the same as just adding the powers up. So this would be the same as 4 plus 3, so it's 10 to the power of 7. Now if you add this together, it will just be 18.75 times 10 to the power of 7. However, because they want our answer in standard form, there is two things that we need to make sure is true so that we can have it in a standard form, and it is the first number needs to be between 1 and 10, which is not right now, it's 18.75, and the next number has to be times 10 to the power of whatever it is. So right now it is not. To make it to between 1 and 10, we can just move it and divide it by 10, so that it becomes 1.875. And now that number is between 1 and 10, making it true that it's standard form. And because we did that, we also going to add 1. So we'll plus 1 to this. So it'll be 10 to the power of 8. And this over here is the answer. Question 3 shows a cuboid of a 3D diagram grid. The coordinates of the vertex M are 5, 3, and 2. Work out the coordinates of the midpoint Ln. So if we just Ln is this line over here, and we want the midpoint, so we want this area over here. So we have y and x. This is like a normal graph that we usually see. Y and x. This z over here is what makes this a 3D graph. This 3D graph basically means it's going outwards, and it's as if it's going outside of the paper. So if we put and we see where m is, we know that the x coordinate is 5, the 3 is a y, and the z is a 2. It's going to have the same x and y coordinate because it's in the exact same light, so it'll still be 5, 3. However, it is right on where the x and y is. It does not come out of the page since it's the back base of it, so we know it's 0. Now, if we find what the coordinates of vertex of L is, we know it's going to have the same y and z values since it's this way, so it'll still be 3 and 0. However, because on the x, if you go back to it, it will be the same as k. Kx is 0, so it is 0. Now, all we have to do is just we find the average, which is just the 2 between each one, so that we can find the midpoint. So for x, it's going to be 0 plus 5 divided by 2. For y, it's going to be 3 plus 3 divided by 2. And for z, it's going to be 2 plus 0 divided by 2. So our answer is going to be 2.5 for x coordinate. We're going to have 3 for y coordinate and 1 for the z coordinate. Question 4. ABC, PQR, and AQD are straight lines. ABC is parallel to PQR. BAQ angle is 35 and angle BQA is 90, just shown over here. Work out the size of the angle marked X and give a reason for each stage of your working out. The first thing we are going to do is find this angle over here. I say as a general rule to just try and find every angle that you can possibly can based on what values you are given in the question. So we know that in a triangle, and all the angles in a triangle will add up to 180. We already have two angles over here, so we can easily find the last one. So we'll do 35 plus 90, which is 125. If you do 180 minus 125, because we know all the angles are equal to 180, that is our first reason for this stage, we get 55. And we know that this over here is 55. Now they tell us in the question that it is parallel. So we know this line and this line over here are parallel, which means this angle, which is the angle we're looking for, X, is also 55. Now the reason for this is because alternate angles are equal. If you ever see a parallel line, we know that these two are always going to be equal. That's why we know that this X is also 55 degrees. Question 5. Viv wants to invest £2,000 for 2 years in the same bank. At the end of the 2 years, Viv wants to have as much money as possible. Which bank should she invest her $2,000 in? So we have the International Bank and we have the Friendly Bank, and both of them uses compound interest. So we'll do International Bank, we'll do this in red. So we both know in year 0, we're going to have 2,000. This is at the beginning. And we'll do the Friendly Bank in blue. So in year 0, we know we also start with 2,000. So now let's start and see which one we are going to get the most at at the end of year 2, and that's the one that Viv will want to invest her £2,000 in, because her whole goal is to have as much money as possible by the end of this 2 years. So with year 1, at the end of year 1, we'll do 2,000 and we times this by 1 point. Because you get 4% for the first year, it'll be 1.04. This 1 being 100%, which is 2,000, and this 4 being that 4% increase. If you do this, we get 2,080. Now, in year 2, we're going to use all our calculations now based on this one, the 2,080. That's what happens with compound interest. We just add on. We do not use the original anymore. So we do 2080. Now, we get 1% for every extra year. So this is now an extra year. This is year 2. So now we're going to times this by an extra 1%, so it will be 1.01. The answer would be 2100.8. This is how much she gets at the end of the second year. Now let's compare this to Friendly Bank. So for year 1, the Friendly Bank does 5% for the first year. So instead of timesing it by 1.04, we times it by times 1.05. So that means it'll be 2,100. Now for year 2, we'll start with 2,100 and we times this. They get 0.5% at the end of every extra year. So we times that by 1.005 because that is half of a percent. And we get 2110.5 pounds. Now which one is more? The one that makes the most money is the Friendly Bank, and this is by around 10 more pounds. So that is the answer. And because it's a type of question like where they specifically ask you, you need to make sure that you do a reasoning at the end. We need to make sure we say we want the Friendly Bank because it makes more money at the end of the 2 years. Question 6. The diagram shows the position of 3 turbines A, B, and C. A is 6 kilometers due north of turbine B. C is 4.5 kilometers due west of turbine B. Calculate the distance of AC. Luckily for us, the diagram's already drawn. This makes the question so much easier for us. We know that this is a right angle triangle. Because it is a right angle triangle, we can use Pythagoras, which will make our life so much easier, where the equation for this is basically a squared equals b squared plus c squared, and we can only use this because it is a right angle triangle. So if we do just label everything, this is b, this is c, and this over here is a. Now all we got to do is substitute the values in, so it'll be a squared, which is what we're trying to find, do 6 squared plus 4.5 squared. This means that a squared is going to equal 56.25. Now all we have to do is just take this square, and we put it to the other side. So it'll be a equals square root of 56.25, meaning that a is 7.5 kilometers. Now we'll just put that into our diagram so that it makes it more clear for us. Calculate the bearing of C from A and give your answer to the correct nearest degree. Now they want the bearing and they want it of C. So first thing we'll do, we'll put our north line from C. This is the most important step. And we want this from A. So what we're going to start is we're going to start from A, which is over here. They want this over here. They want this, all of that. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to find this angle over here, which is the ACB angle. Now we can do this using SOHCAHTOA. And how we do this is we're going to start by labeling it. Because this over here is the angle that we are trying to find, we can say that this is the opposite, since it's opposite the angle. And this over here is the hypotenuse because it is the longest one. And over here, whatever is just right next to it is the adjacent. So because right now I'm going to use tan, which is the opposite and the adjacent. This is because I'm using the values that's already given to me in the question, so it makes it so much easier for me. Instead of using something that I just figured out right now, which is AC, which is the hypotenuse, just to make sure that the question is right, just in case I did get that first question wrong. Doing tan, and this is X, which is the angle over here we're trying to find. And this is opposite, since O comes first, then adjacent. So it'll be 6 over 4.5. Now, however, we do want X by itself. So what we do is we put tan to the other side. And we do this by just doing tan inverse, which is a function that you have on your calculator. And it'll be 6 divided by 4.5. We know that X is 53.13. So we know that this is a 90-degree angle. So because this is 90-degree angle, we can just minus it from each other. So our answer will be 36.869. Now all we have to do is just add it by 180. So it will be 216.8699. However, because they wanted it to the nearest degree, 216.8699, just round it up. So it will be 217. Expand and simplify y minus 2 times y minus 5. So first we are going to expand it. So we're going to times y with this y times minus 5. Then we're going to do 2 minus 2 times y and minus 2 times minus 5. So let's start with y times y, which is y squared. Then we do y times minus 5y, so it will be minus 5y. Then we do this, which will be minus 2y. Then we do minus 2 times minus 5. 2 minus makes a positive. That will be 10. Now we just have to simplify. So these are like terms, so we just do them. And there's no more for this, so that can't be simplified any further. So if we do minus 5y minus 2y is minus 7y. And we just add it by 10, which is the answer. B, prove algebraically that 2n plus 1 squared minus 2n plus 1 is an even number for all positive integer values of n. So first thing we are going to do is that we are going to expand this out. When in doubt, just expand and try to solve it in a more logical way. So if we just take it out, we'll do 2 plus 1, 2n plus 1, and minus 2n plus 1. We need 2 times first. This is because of a bit math. So then what we do is we do the same way where we times each term with each other. So it'll be 4n squared plus 2n plus 2n plus 1 minus 2n plus 1. Now we're going to take all the like terms together. So we have all this 2n, and we have this plus 1 plus 1. However, because we see this minus over here, this is going to change it to a minus, because we need to times the minus also, because just imagine minus just has a minus 1. So if we do this now, it will be 4n squared. This will be plus 2n. If we just do it all together. Now, they want to show that it is an even number. How do you show something is an even number? You just take 2 out, because every single even number can be divided by 2. That is the definition of it. So if this is an even number, we can easily factorize out 2 and we'll get with a whole number. So that's how we prove it. So we'll take 2 out. So we know it'll still be 2n squared, and this is plus n, which is the answer. We can also take out 2n if we want as well. So it will be 2n plus 1, which is also the answer. Question 8. A, B, C, and D are points on the circumference of a circle with center O. AC is the diameter of the circle. AC and BD intersects at E. Angle CAB is 25 degrees and DEC is 100. Work out the angle of DAC. So they want DAC. They want this angle over here, so we'll just mark it with X. So this is where circle theorem comes into play. This whole question is about it. So the first thing that we are going to see is we know that ABC, which is over here, this is 90 degrees. We can see it just because it kind of has that L shape. Because every single time you see this is the radius, this is the diameter, since we know that this is 0. Any two lines that come and it hits that point, one of the circumference, we know that that is 90 degrees. Because we know what this is, and what this is, we can easily find out what ACB is. And this is because we're going to take it as a big triangle. So we're going to take it as this triangle over here. Because we know that all the angles in a triangle all add up to 180. So if you just do 90 plus 25, which is 115, minus that by 180. So we do 180 minus 115. We know that it is 65. So we know that this angle over here is 65 degrees. This over here is also a right angle triangle. So we can find out what CBD is. So this angle over here. So if you do that, we'll just take the same principle that all the angles in a triangle equals 180. So do 65 plus 90. And that will be 155 minus that by 180. We know that it is 35. So this over here is 35. So we know that this over here, which is EBA, is just 90 minus 35. So it's 55 degree. This is 35 degree. We know that this X over here is also 35 degree because they are the exact same, and this is due to circle theorem. Question 9. The scatter graph shows some information about 10 pine cones from the same tree. It shows length and width of each pine cone. Describe the relationship between the length of the width and the pine cone. So when they say relationship, they're seeing what type. Is it positive, negative? So anything that goes up like this, we know that that is positive, as because if one increases, the other increases. And if it goes down like that, we know that it is negative because if one increases, the other decreases. So we can see over here that the trend mostly goes up. So we know that the relationship is a positive relationship. And here they say describe. So we need to make sure that we completely describe, and this is using a complete sentence. So it is, as the length of the pine cone increases, the width also increases. Another pine cone from this tree has a length of 8.4 centimeters. Estimate the width of this pine cone. So when we estimate, the first thing that we need to do is we need to draw a line of best fit. And we need to do this so that we can try to make sure it goes through every single point possible, or at least as much, so that in each side of each type, there is the same amount of x's in this one side as there is on the other side. So here I made it so that it's 5 on one side of the line and 5 on the other. Now what we do is we know it's 8.4 in length. So we're going to find that over here, which is over here. And then you draw a line to where 8.4 is, and you stop when you hit that line of best fit that you drew. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the other side, and we're going to read out what the width says. So here it says it's 6.2. Now, every person question is going to be different. Their answer is going to be different. This depends on the line of best fit that you drew, but most of the time there is a range that needs to be in. We got 6.2, but any answer between 6.1 and 6.4 will be correct. Question 10. Simplify fully this equation right here. So the first thing we see is that they are both quadratics in both ways. So what we are going to do is we are going to factorize it in both ones so that we can see if any of the like terms are going to be the same. We factorize the first one, we get 2x minus 3 and x minus 1, and the bottom one will be 1 is x plus 6 and x minus 1. If we can see over here, we can see that both place has x minus 1. So we can easily just take this out. It's as if we divided the whole thing. So if we just divide both up and bottom by x minus 1, we can just remove that. So then we are ended up with 2x minus 3 over x plus 6. We cannot find any other like terms. So this is the overall simplified equation. Make m the subject of this equation over here. So we can see that there are two m's right now, even though we are going to aim to try to make it down to 1, and they are both in different sides of equation. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to make this into one complete term. We do this is we first need to, since we're minusing from each other, we need to make it a common denominator, which will be VB. So we just need times this by B and this by V, then divided by each other. So it will be MB minus TV, just shown over here, and that is going to be equal to m minus t over r. Now what we have to do is we need to cross multiply because we have the equal sign and a fraction on both sides. So this will be r over mb minus tv, and that is vb, this is times m minus t. Now that we have each one on the different side, we can expand it out. So this will be RMB minus RTB, and that's VBM, and this is minus VBT. Now let's put everything with a M on one side and all the others on different sides. So we'll keep this RMB, this is minus VBM, and then we just need to take this to the other side. So it'll be RTV, since it becomes a positive, and this stays a negative, so minus VBT. Now what we're going to do is we're going to factorize m out because it is a common term in both of them. So if we take it out, it will be RB minus VB. That equals RTV minus VBT. Now we can put this to the other side, so it will be m equals RTV minus VBT. Now we all divide by RB minus VB. And that is the answer. We made m the subject of the equation. Samit records the times in minutes for 40 runners to finish half a marathon. Information about these times are shown in the table. Estimate the mean time. We are going to find the midpoint, so we'll just put it on the side, and this is whatever the halfway point between all of these information is. So between 60 and 90, the half point is 75. Between 90 and 120, it's 105. Between 120 and 150, it's 135. Between 150 and 185, it's 165. Between 180 and 210, we know that that is 195. Now, what we do next is we do the midpoint, and we times this by the frequency, as this is just an average of what we think every single person did. So we do 75 times by 10, that is 750. We do 105 times by 14, that is 1470. 9 times 135, that is 1215. We do 5 times by 165, that is 825. And lastly, we do 2 times 195, that is 390. Now, all we do is we add all of this up. We know that this is 4650. And this is the overall, what every single time is overall, but we want to find the mean time. So we'll take all the timings overall, we divide by 40 runners so that we can find the mean time, and the answer is 116.25. Question 12. ABC is a straight line. AB to BC is the same as ratio 2 to 5. OA is 2A plus B, and OB is 3A plus 2B. Express OC in terms of AB. So let's first label what we're trying to find. We are trying to find this line over here, and it's the direction of OC. We can see that by seeing what's first and the arrow. And we know that AB is 2, and BC that is 5. First thing we are going to do is we're going to find out what AB is. This is because we are going to try and find it so that we find what OC is. Because one way with vectors, all we're trying to do is we're trying to express how we can do a direction with trying to find a different direction. So going to OC is the same as going OA and that to OC. We get the same type of direction. We're just trying to find it in a new route. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find AB. AB, if we go in this direction, we can go that way, then that way. So it will be the same as AO, and that is the same plus OB. So that is just, because this way is originally going that way, if we want it, because we're going this way now, we just inverse all the, so the pluses become minus, the minus become pluses. So it'll be minus 2A minus B, and this is going the same direction that it is given to us, so it just plus 3A plus 2B. So that is plus A plus B. So we just mark that down here. We'll mark it in a different color to make it more obvious. This is A plus B. Now what we are going to find is we are going to find what OC now is. OC, this is going to be the same as OA plus AC, which is what we saw in the beginning. So OA is just 2A plus B. Now, because we know that AB, that is the same as 2 over 7. I got 7 by doing 2 plus 5, which is 7, and this is just 2 parts of it. This is the same as 2/7 of it. So if you want to get the whole number of it, that's just the same as doing the reciprocal. So it will be 7 over 2, and we times it by it. So it will be plus 7 over 2 of this A plus B. If we do that, we can see that OC is going to be 11 over 2A. This is added by 9 over 2B. And that is the answer. A, complete the tables of values for y equals x cubed minus 3x plus 1, where they give us what the x is and we're trying to find out what y is. So with that, all we're going to do is we're going to use our calculator. So first we have minus 2. Make sure in the calculator, if you're ever using negative numbers, you always put the brackets in between it, because sometimes it just doesn't work unless you put the brackets, so that you make sure the answers that you get in your calculator are true. So that is how you do it. So then you get minus 1. So now for 0, still put it. So if you do 0 to cubed, it's still 0. Anything to times by 0 is 0, so we just end up with the plus 1. And then if you put 1, we just get 1 minus 1 at the end. Now we need to just draw this graph, and this is from minus 2 to 2. So we make sure that we do not extrapolate, which basically means when we draw the line, we make sure we end at whatever point we have on the minus 2 and on the 2. We do not go any over that because they did not give us the value. So we will start by putting what minus 2 and minus 1. Get minus 2 here and minus 1 here, and we plot it. Then we have minus 1, 3. So minus 1, 3. Then we have 0, 1, which is over here. Then we have minus 1, 1. And then you have 2, 3, which is over here. Now, you can see that it is kind of all over. It kind of looks like an N, but this is because it is x cubed. You need to know what the shapes of different graphs is. So because it's x cubed, we know that this is how it looks like. It has 2 turning points. If it was minus x, then it would be the other way. So it would kind of look like this. So now we just need to get the graphs together. So we just plot it. You do not use a straight line for this. You don't use a ruler. You just use your free hand, because it does need to look like it was a curve. If you do it straight lines, point to point with a ruler, you will lose a mark. And these are easy marks. Here are the first 5 terms of a sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. So let's just do it here so that we can see it more clearly. We can already see the first thing we are going to do is we're going to see what the difference is between them. So the difference between 5 and 11, we know that that is 7. 11 and 22 is 11. 27 and 37, that is 15. And 56 minus 37, the difference is 19. We can already see that the first one over here is, it's not a linear thing, because they don't have the exact same common difference between each one. We usually get it so that it's like 4 in between each one. So if you do get that, what we're going to do is we're going to do it for the second time. So we're going to see 7 to 11, the difference is 4. 11 to 15, it is 4. 15 to 19, it is 4. So we know that this is going to be a quadratic type of thing. This is because it is the second value that actually has a common difference between them. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to take whatever the difference is, and we are going to divide it by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and this is our n squared, which is the first part of this quadratic equation. It's 2n squared. Now, to find the next part is we know that the first term of whatever sequence, because we know it is quadratic, is the same as a plus b plus c. We already know what a is. We know that a is 2. This is because we did 4 divided by 2. Now, what 7 is, or whatever the first one difference is, that's the same as 3a plus b. This is just something you need to memorize. So what we're going to do is we're going to equal that to 7. Now, because we equaled that to 7, we are going to try to find out what b is, since we already know what a is. So we'll do 3 times 2, and this is plus b equals 7. So that's 6 plus b equals 7. So that's b is the same as 7 minus 6, so b equals 1. Now, so that we can find c, it will be a plus b plus c equals the first term, so it's 4. We know a is 2, we know b is 1 plus c, and that equals 4. So we'll just put all of this to the other side. So we know c equals 4 minus 1 minus 2. We know c equals 1 as well. So we know this is a quadratic sequence. How does a quadratic looks like? It looks like this. It looks an squared plus bn plus c. This is just a normal how a quadratic looks like. Doesn't have to be a sequence, just it's the same thing. So now we're just going to put our a, b, and c. So we know that it will be 2n squared, since a is 2, plus 1n, so just n because b is n, and this is just plus 1 because c equals 1, and that is the answer, and that's how you find a nth term for a quadratic sequence. Question 15. Functions f and g are such that fx equals 5x plus 3 and gx equals ax plus b, where a and b are constants. G3 equals 20 and inverse of f is 33 is G1. Find the value of A and find the value of B. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to use what they gave us here. So where G3 equals 20. And we're going to find that out by putting it back into here. X is 3 because that's as if they put it in. So it'll be 3A plus B. We know that the answer of it is 20, so equals 20. That is the first equation that we have come up with. Now we are going to use this one over here. So we know the inverse of f. So let's start by finding what the inverse of f is. So how I do this is that I change this to a y to make it easier. So fx plus 3. Now all we have to do is just make x the subject. So if you do this in a different color, to make x the subject, we'll put 3 to the other side. That equals 5x. Now we divide it by 5, so minus y3 divided by 5 equals x. Now all you do is you switch the y and the x together, so that it will be x minus 3 over 5, and instead of y, this is the inverse. This is the inverse of x. So let's find out what g1 is. So if we put 1 into here, we know that g1 is the exact same as just a plus b. If we put the 33 here, so because it's inside, we're putting where the x is. We'll do 33 minus 3 over 5. We know that that is going to equal 6. So we're going to put this together. We know that G1 is a plus b, and we know that 33 minus 3 is 6. So we know that 6 equals is the same as a plus b. So we are going to now use this as our second equation. Now we're going to use both of these so that we can find out what the answer is. So what we're going to just make one of these equations. I'm going to choose A. A is going to be the subject. So we just put B to the other side. So it'll be 6 minus B. Now we take this A and we put it into the first equation. It's B, so it'll be 3, 6 minus B. This is plus B, and this equals 20. So if we just expand this out, it'll be 18 minus 3B plus b equals 20. Now we'll put all the b on one side and all the other terms on the other side. So minus 3b plus b is the same as minus 2b. And if you put this to the other side, it'll be 20 minus 18. So minus 2b is the same as 2. B equals 2 over minus 2. So b equals minus 1. Now so that we can find out what a is, we need to take this over here and we're going to put it back into this equation over here, which is 6 equals a plus b. 6 equals a minus 1. So then now to find a, we're just going to put this to the other side. So 6 plus 1, so it's just 7. A equals 7. So we know that the answer is 7 for a and minus 1 for b. Question 16. In an experiment, 60 students each completed a puzzle. The cumulative frequency graph shows the information about time taken for 60 students to complete the puzzles. For 60 students, the least time was taken was 24 seconds and the greatest time taken was 96 seconds. Draw a box plot for the distribution of time taken by these students. So they already gave us the information that the least time taken was 24 and the most was 96. This is the minimum and this is the maximum. So that is the first stem that we are going to put. So they already gave us, so this is 30. So we know that this over here is 24. We're going to draw this line over here. Now that is the minimum, so now we'll get the greatest time, which is 96, which will be over here using the scale that they gave us. Now that is how the first part is, so it kind of looks like this. This is how our box plot is going to look like. It's something like this, where this line over here is the mean, this is the lower quartile, this is the upper quartile, this over here is the minimum, and this is the maximum. So we already did what the maximum and minimum is. Now with the cumulative frequency, we're going to find what the lower and the upper as well as the mean. So we use this using our cumulative frequency. So we can see that it's 0 to 60. Whatever the half is, that is our mean because that is the half. So we're going to go down. And if we go down over here, we can see that the half is 54. Now we're going to find the lower quartile. So 60 basically divided by 4, that is 15. So it's 15. Keep going until we hit our curve and we go down, that is 42. And if we do the same, so 15 times by 3, because this is upper, so it's 75%, that is our 45. So we keep going up, so we go hit the curve and we go down, that is 64. Now all we need to do is put it down, so we're going to have 42. 42 is over here. We'll make that a tiny bit smaller than our top outside parts. So then 54 is over here. Then we have 64, which is over here. Nope. Over here. Now we're going to draw the box together. Like that. And then we're going to draw a line. This is to show that this was the greatest and this is the minimum. And that is our box plot over there. 17. Sam drives his car on a journey, and here is the travel graph for the first 15 minutes of his journey. Work out Sam's speed in kilometers per hour for the first 15 minutes of his journey. So kilometers per hour already kind of gives us a hint on how it's going to be. So kilometers per hour, we already know that it's distance, and this is over time. And this is the exact same as amount over time, so we know that we are trying to find out the gradient. And the gradient is the exact same as y over x, and in this case, y is distance and time is x. So we find out what distance is. 0 to 20, the difference is 20, and from 10 to here, it is 15. So what we do is we just do 20 over 15, and because they want an hour, this 15 is in minutes. So we need to make sure that we convert this into hours. How we do that is we just do 15 over 60. So it is 0.25. So we'll do 20 over 0.25. And the answer will be 80. This is kilometers and per hour. So make sure that you really pay attention to the units they are asking for. At 10:15, Sam stops for 10 minutes and then drives for 20 minutes at the speed of 75 kilometers per hour. On the grid, complete the travel graph for Sam's journey. So we know that he stops for 10 minutes. So when he stops, we know that the gradient is basically equal to 0 because he's moving 0 kilometers at 0 hours. So we're just going to do 10 minutes. So with 15, 10 minutes plus 15, that's just 25. So the first thing we are going to do, just keep it so that it's at a straight line, and that just means that he stopped. So then now we say that he drives for 20 minutes. That's a speed of 75 kilometers per hour. So what we're trying to do is now we're going to try and find out what the distance traveled within that 75 kilometers per hour. If you see what the thing, its distance is the same as speed over time. We are going to try finding out what its distance is. So we have a speed which is 75 kilometers. However, this is per hour. So we need to make 20 into hour. That is the same as just doing 60 divided by 20. So we do times by 1/3. So the answer is 25. They drove 25 kilometers. So we know it is 20 minutes. So from 15, 35, 45, so it'll be here. And they drove 20. So 20, this is 240, so it's over here. So then we just plot the dots together, and that is our distance graph completed. Question 18. Here is a triangle ABC. Find the angle of BC and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. So they are trying to find this over here. Let's mark that as X. So what we are going to do is we are going to use the cosine rule. Why? This is because we have A and we have B and we have the angle that's in between them. If you see two lengths and the angle between, you know that we are going to use the cosine rule. What the cosine rule is, it is basically, this is, if we say it is C squared equals B squared plus A squared minus 2BA cos that A over there. And that is, and this over here is C. This is what we are trying to find. So now all we have to do is we need to just input all these things in. So we're going to do 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times by 8 times by 11 cos 72. If we put that all into a calculator, we can see that the answer is going to be 130.613. However, this is C squared. We're trying to find C by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to square root it. And when we square root it, we are going to get the answer of 11.4286. However, we want this to 3 significant figures. So 1, 2, 3. This is because it's a 2, we just round down. So it will be 11.4. Find the area of the angle triangle ABC and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Because this is not a right angle triangle, the equation we are going to use half AB sin A. So where AB is just 8 and 11 and A, the big A, is just 72. So we're just going to do half times 8 times 11 times sin 72, so it's just a substitution, and the answer will be 41.8, and this is correct to 3 significant figures. 19. The time period t seconds of the simple pendulum of length L is given by the formula that KT uses a simple pendulum in an experiment to find the estimate of value of G. Here are her results, and L, this is correct to 3 significant figures, and T, which is also correct to 3 significant figures. Work out the upper bound and the lower bound of value G, and pi is 3.142, and you must show all your working out. So the first thing we are going to do is, because we are trying to find the value of G, we need to make G the center of the equation. We are trying to make G the subject of the equation. It's going to equal 4 pi squared L, and this is over T squared. So we are going to do a table so that we can make it very simple for us what is the lower bound and the upper bound for each, for L and for T. So this is correct to 3 significant figures. So we're going to be playing with this imaginary one over here. So we're going to see that the lower bound for 52 is 51.95. This is because 0.05 since to 3 significant figures. We do 52.05. And for 1.45, it's 1445 and 1.455. And that is it. So now what we're going to do is when timesing, so that we can get the upper bound of timesing, we always do the most. We do upper bound times upper bound times upper bound because we want to get the biggest. For lower bound, you do lower bound, lower bound, lower bound. And then for division, if you ever divide, what you're going to do is you're always going to try upper divided by lower. This is if you want to get the upper bound. And then if you want to get the lower bound, you do lower bound divided by upper bound because that was when you're going to get the smallest number. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to times all of this, do upper bound times upper bound, and we divide this by the most lower bound, and we do the opposite for the different direction. So with upper bound, we are going to get an answer of 98.4, and for lower bound, we are going to get 969. 20. Work out the exact value of x. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to try making all these common terms that are over here. We are going to want to make them all two, so it makes it to the power of 2. So we already have times 2 to the power of 2x. We don't need to worry about that. However, with 8, we know that 8 is going to be the same as 2 to the power of 3. So if we put that in, we know that it's going to be 2 to the power of 3, and this is the same, because we put it up, it's the same as timesing it now with times 2 to the power of 3 over 4. And now we're going to do the same over here. We know that 16 is the same as 2 to the power of 4, so it'll be 2 to the power of 4 times by 2 to the power of 1 over 5. Now, because we made every single one of these the exact same term in the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to cancel every single one of these, and we're just going to work with the top one. So it'll be 4, and with the laws of indices, you know that if we times something together, we know that it's basically the same as just adding the indices. So it'll be 4 plus 1 over 5 plus x, that equals 3 plus 3 over 4. So all these other numbers in the other side will be 3 plus 3 over 4. This is minus 4 minus 1 over 5. We know that answer x is the same as 1.45. Thank you so much. That is the end of the predicted paper walkthrough. I do strongly recommend that you still revise every single topic, and you also go back to my predicted paper ones, since some of these topics that didn't come up are very likely to come up for the next one. And practice, math is math, so do all the other exam boards as well. Good luck on your exam, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.